I get shamed for spreading the gospel by my own Christian friends. I get shamed by many people I don't know on the other side of the screen. But let me tell you right now, bring it on, bro. Bring it on. I'm not gonna stop. I don't care about your words. They're nothing. They're nothing. But God's words are everything, and I will not stop sharing them. Come at me, man.
This is David Ladding. He's a famous Christian TikToker. I've talked about him before, but as it turns out, he's still releasing bizarre video after bizarre video. To this day, he's obviously entirely too invested in Christianity. Listen to this last clip one more time and really think about what he's saying here.
I get shamed for spreading the gospel by my own Christian friends. I get shamed by many people I don't know on the other side of the screen.
This is a good old-fashioned persecution complex. You find this among extreme Christian branches all the time. I don't want this video to come across as me shaming the dude. I'm absolutely not. Be religious, by all means. I have no problem with that. What I have a problem with is how obviously radical he's become over the years. If you haven't heard of him or seen any of the really radical stuff yet, we'll get there. Trust me, the guy's mind is gone. But the video itself should act as an indicator of that fact. When even your Christian friends have picked up on how extreme you've become, it might be time to tone it down a little bit. And about that last thing he said there.
I get shamed by many people I don't know on the other side of the screen.
He kind of invited that, right? You're putting it out there for the world to consume in the form of a TikTok or a Talk Block or a YouTube or whatever. It's for other people to consume. That's the point. You want others to hear what you have to say. If they don't like it, they're free to criticize it. That's the free marketplace of ideas, baby. Now, with that being said, I don't believe in attacking somebody's physical attributes or personal character. I'm only here to criticize the ideas. If you feel shame when people point out how extreme you are, then maybe you should take the hint that you should ground yourself in reality a little better. Anyways, let's take a look at some of his more bizarre takes, and then we're going to see what he's up to today. Let's get into it.
So I wanted to go preach outside because there's a thunderstorm. That's cool, that's sick, that'd be so fire. And my mentor said, no, your zeal is pretty cool, but that's stupid. So I'm not doing that tonight.
Apparently the guy has a mentor now. The time gap between the first video we watched and the last one is a few years. I don't know this for a fact, but I heard from somebody who purported to know him personally that the church he goes to isn't even that extreme. They're a little out there, but nowhere near the same level of intensity as David is. I'm assuming he was assigned a mentor at church because they can clearly see he's completely off the rails with this, and they're trying to ground him in reality. Unfortunately, I feel like we need to talk about this guy because he isn't an outlier. This kind of behavior is extremely common in the US right now. It's all over the place. Now, regarding the little thunderstorm idea, there's this idea floating around that you have to be persecuted and suffer if you want Jesus to respect your service to him. It isn't real unless it's difficult. So the more extreme members of some of these groups will intentionally put themselves in dangerous or miserable situations to make their service more valid. I'm just glad this dude apparently has a mentor, and the mentor has enough courage and sense to recognize a bad idea and shoot it down when he hears it. Let's keep listening.
Sometimes something might seem so cool and so awesome to your eyes, but the Lord might say no. And are you willing to submit to that? Are you willing to submit to the Lord? Even when everything else tells you that your way is right.
In this case, the mentor made the right call, but it disturbs the hell out of me to hear somebody refer to a decision that somebody made for them as the Lord's decision. No! This was a decision made by somebody who you consider to be something of a supervisor. He's obviously far more experienced and aware, and you should definitely respect his decisions and opinions. But in no way was this a decision from God. This is how people take advantage of others, instilling this kind of mindset in them. I don't believe the Bible is the inspired word of God, but if I did, I would say the only way to get guidance from God is to read it directly from the Bible. If you're hearing it from a person, it's their opinion, not God's opinion. The next clip I want to take a look at is another historical one. It's a few years old, but it answers questions about something I think we've all noticed already. Check this out.
This is a great question. I'm crying because I want you to know something. I'm crying because you have to fear God. I'm crying because you don't know God, you mock and scoff him. And one day you will face God.
a creator of universes, a God who speaks and his voice is like thunder, who shakes a throne room when he speaks, a God that 100 million angels just scream, holy, holy, holy. Some angels worship him forever. That is their job. You will face this God. And so I'm crying now. I'm crying out as a warning to you. Be prepared to face him.
The dude cries in almost every video he releases, and he releases a lot of them. You should not be this emotionally invested in anything. But if you notice, at the end, he used fear tactics to try to radicalize other listeners. Whatever it takes to bring people under the tent with you. He is nowhere near the only person doing this giga Christian stuff on TikTok. It is all over the place. Millions of views. Some Christian hashtags have billions of views. Check this one out. I cut the music out for copyright reasons, but it doesn't have any voice anyways. Let's make the Jesus haters uncomfortable. As if anybody hates Jesus. I don't buy the creation story. I'm assuming they're talking about people like me. Then they show pictures of people worshiping Jesus. If by uncomfortable you mean cringe, then sure, I suppose you've accomplished your goals. Before we continue, I wanted to mention something. If you like what I do and you want to see me continue to do it, you can support me in a few ways. First, there's Patreon. That's probably the best way. But if you want to get something back for your support, you can check out my Teespring. I sell all kinds of stickers and shirts and stuff on there. Or you can check out my other YouTube channels. I have my Fireside Chat channel where I talk more about how religion is integrating itself into politics, or you can check out my Telltale Unfiltered channel where I do long-form breakdowns of absolutely unhinged sermons and rallies. So if any of that sounds like it's up your alley, give it a watch. Anyways, let's continue. TikTok is full of giga Christian stuff, not just cringe either. It has decades-old propaganda that's been recycled. Check out this video in the Christian TikTok feed of televangelist Billy Graham propagandizing about hell.
Hell was never made for man. God will never send anybody to hell. If man goes to hell, he goes by his own free choice. Hell was created for the devil and his angels, not for man. God never meant that a man should go there. And God has done everything within his power to keep you out. He even gave his son to die on that cross to keep you out.
Weird. If it's not God sending us to hell, and he doesn't want anybody to go there, then why doesn't he just erase the existence of hell? Bring everybody to heaven. The Bible story about how original sin entered into the world is kind of a messed up story when you think about it. God created two people and plopped them right in the middle of a gigantic garden, right? But instead of plopping them down somewhere safe, he puts them down right next to a tree that would kill them if they ate from it. Why didn't he put them in the US? Why didn't he put them somewhere in China? Why in the Middle East, right next to this gigantic, dangerous tree? And when they did eat from that tree, why didn't he give Adam a vasectomy and send them to another part of the planet to live out the rest of their lives on their own and create a new breeding pair? I just gave two basic, straightforward solutions to the Adam and Eve problem. You're telling me an all-knowing, all-powerful God couldn't come up with a solution some dumb human came up with on his own? The propaganda technique Billy Graham used is called reframing propaganda. He's reframing the situation to make God out to be the good guy in a situation where he's clearly the bad guy. People like this prey on the gullibility and poor biblical understanding of people like David Ladding. Speaking of old David, he just released a new TikTok the other day. He's trying to use Ukraine as an analogy for how much he loves God. Check this clip out.
Do you believe in God or know that he exists? See, there's a war happening in Ukraine. I know that war is going down. I know for a fact that Russia is invading Ukraine. Do I believe in the war? No. If I truly believed in the war, I would be going right now on a plane and fighting for Ukraine. I know the war is happening, but I don't really believe in the fight. Otherwise, I would give my life for it. You see the difference between knowing and believing?
What? I think he's conflating an endorsement of a movement and accepting a concept as true. I can't tell if he's in favor of Ukraine or not. It's so hard to figure out what he's getting at. But he does have a point, though I don't think he even realizes he has a point. There's a difference between belief and knowledge. For example, evolution is something that you either accept or you don't accept, because it's a fact claim. Either it's correct or it isn't correct. It's something you know, not something you believe. God, on the other hand, is not a fact claim. The existence of God is something you believe or don't believe. It's something you have to take on faith, because there's no evidence. If there was evidence, you wouldn't need faith. If you have faith, it's because you don't have evidence. According to the Bible, faith is a belief in something unseen. The Bible knew there was no evidence that God exists. That's why they put that bit in there in the first place. And that's okay. If you want to believe something on faith, fine. Just don't claim to know it like we know evolution is a fact. But there's an even deeper point to David's video. Listen to this last section.
Do you believe in God, or do you know God exists? Because if you believe in him, you're going to give everything you have. Because you believe, not just know.
Every video this dude puts out revolves around radicalizing people. He doesn't just want you to believe the same way as him. He wants to radicalize you. He wants you to give everything to his religion. Absolutely everything. There is no line with this religion where things are going entirely too far, like I mentioned in the beginning of the video. There is no too far with his belief system. Here's another perfect example of this guy showing an absolutely unhealthy level of radicalism.
I can make a message right now, and it would be easy. But God has been working on my discipline, me being honed in on my discipline, and I just spent 30 minutes just watching random videos. I have a trip tomorrow I need to pack. I have things to do tonight, but instead I watch videos. I failed. Authenticity right here. God asked me to be diligent with my time, and I have not been today. I could sit in condemnation and beat myself into the grave, or say, man, I'm going to do better tomorrow. Thank you, Jesus, for teaching me.
Literally every aspect of this guy's life revolves around God, even relaxing. If I were being charitable, I could assume that he's okay with relaxing sometimes, but he had things he was supposed to do instead. He was procrastinating. Even if that interpretation of the situation was correct, he looks at it like it's a spiritual failing, like something that could keep him out of heaven if he doesn't take it seriously. But something tells me that's not the only aspect of this situation. Something tells me he beats himself up for relaxing and watching videos when he could be praying. If you wonder why I view it that way, watch the next clip.
Imagine I only talk to my wife on a date. The only time I would ever communicate with her is in an appointment. I would say, honey, I know we live together, and I know you're my wife, but I can really only chat from 7 tonight to 8. But in reality, most Christians do this with God. They make appointments with the Father, but instead of 7 to 8, they only do it for 15 minutes, maybe 10. Usually 5, because they get bored. They want to have a better relationship with God, but they just don't even ever talk to him. Pray without ceasing. Talk to him all the time about everything.
Literally everything this guy does revolves around Jesus. Literally every single thing. It's like he's always talking to the guy in his head 24/7. This is an unhealthy level of religiosity. There should really be a boundary. His entire personality revolves around his belief system. If he lost his belief, he would no longer be David Ladding. That is not safe emotionally. He also digs up these weird arguments for God videos on TikTok and does tandem videos with them called stitching. Check this one out.
From galaxies and stars, down to atoms and subatomic particles, the very structure of our universe is determined by these numbers. Scientists have come to the shocking realization that each of these numbers has been carefully dialed to an astonishingly precise value, a value that falls within an exceedingly narrow, life-permitting range. If any one of these numbers were altered by even a hair's breadth, no physical, interactive life of any kind could exist anywhere. There'd be no stars, no life, no planets, no chemistry.
Look at this dude reacting in real time. He's not saying a word. He's just using his platform to boost this fine-tuning video. Where do you even find this thing? It's almost like he wants to watch videos on TikTok, but he feels like he's sinning if he does, so he watches religious videos. And by doing so, he feels like he's serving God. The dude can't even relax and have a good time. And about the video, if you notice, they said that science has come to the astonishing conclusion that the numbers have been carefully tuned. That implies that there was somebody on the other end doing the tuning. Yes, if the universal constants were any different than they are, the universe would be uninhabitable. There are a billion reasons why that might be the case, some of which could include an interdimensional alien species. Is that likely? No. Does that mean Yahweh, Father of Jesus, sent his only son to die for your sins and he cares who you lie next to in bed at night? Of course not. Before I accept God was the one to fine-tune these numbers, you're gonna have to rule out other way more plausible explanations. Like maybe these values are an emergent property. Maybe when all these ingredients gather together, it just so happens that the gravitational constant lines up to be exactly where it is. Or maybe there are a ton of other universes out there with variations in universal constants. Douglas Adams, the guy who wrote The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, talked about this exact thing in something called the puddle analogy. He said, if you imagine a puddle waking up one morning and thinking, this is an interesting world I find myself in, an interesting hole I find myself in. Fits me rather neatly, doesn't it? In fact, it fits me staggeringly well. Must have been made to have me in it. That pretty cleanly illustrates the problem with the fine-tuning argument. Aside from the fact that you can't rule out alien species, what seems like fine-tuning by an intelligent creator really isn't. What would be astonishing is to find ourselves on a planet that is completely inhospitable to human life. If we lived on a planet that had zero oxygen in the atmosphere, but we're bebopping along anyways, despite the fact that the ingredients we need to survive aren't here, that would be more compelling evidence for God than what we currently have. Right now, we're no different than the puddle. But ultimately, none of the logical arguments I or anybody else present matter to David Ladding. What matters is that his entire identity revolves around Jesus and literally nothing else. I am deeply sorry that this guy found himself so deep down a radical path. I would hope he finds his way out, but I worry what would happen to him emotionally if he did. Anyways, that's all I've got for you. If you like what I do and you want to see me continue to do it, you can support me in a few ways. First, there's Patreon. That's probably the best way. But if you want to get something back for your support, you can check out my Teespring. I sell all kinds of stickers and shirts and stuff on there. Or you can check out my other YouTube channels. I have my Fireside Chat channel, where I talk more about how religion is integrating itself into politics. Or you can check out my Telltale Unfiltered channel, where I do long-form breakdowns of absolutely unhinged sermons and rallies. So if any of that sounds like it's up your alley, give it a watch. All links are in the description as always. Okay, thanks for watching, guys.